Hello, my name is John Pinnegar and I'm a Principal Scientist and Lead Advisor on Climate Change at CEFAS, the Centre for Environment, Fisheries and Aquaculture Science, which is a government agency and part of the UK Department of Environment based in Lowestoft. I've been a member of the Fisheries Society for more than 25 years and the FSBI funded my PhD. Part of my job is to advise the UK government on climate change impacts in the oceans, and in particular in 2008 the government introduced a Climate Change Act or law which requires that every 5 years a climate change risk assessment is produced for the UK, and for the first 2 cycles of that process I was the lead author on marine and fisheries issues. Then last year the government also introduced a new Fisheries Act, and the Fisheries Act includes a specific objective on climate change that requires that the government understand how climate change is going to affect the fisheries and aquaculture industry in the future. And so a lot of my work has focused on understanding the impacts of climate change on fish and fisheries in the United Kingdom, but also elsewhere in the world. And I've worked quite extensively in the Middle East and the Caribbean. A lot of my work has focused on shifts in the species distribution of fish. The place where I work has existed as some sort of agency for well over 100 years, and we have a wealth of data in our archive, and we've used this to try and look at how the centre of distribution has shifted, particularly in the North Sea. So we have data on where fishermen have gathered their catches from, going all the way back to 1913, and we've shown that the sort of centre of distribution has shifted northwards for species like cod, plaice and haddock, and that they've gradually moved northwards and into deeper water over the past 100 years. More recently, I've been involved in quite a lot of work trying to predict the future distribution of species, and we do this using models where, if we know where the species is distributed now, and we have models from the UK Met Office that suggest how the climate is going to change in the future, then we can put those 2 pieces of information together and predict where the species will be able to live in the future. We've done this for about 45 species of commercially important fish around the UK, and what we've seen is that we're predicted to get both new species coming into the UK, and this is happening already, of species like red mullets and John Dory, but also things like squid, and we're also predicted to perhaps lose or see species that may decline in the future, and that includes some of our most important commercial species such as cod, which is slowly retreating further north and out towards the sort of Norwegian Trench region. Another area that I've been very heavily involved in is climate change risk assessment of fishing fleets. We've just completed a very detailed assessment of all of the fishing fleets across Europe, but also coastal fishing regions. And we looked within that at hazard, which is the sort of sensitivity of the species, exposure, which is the sort of diversity of catches that the different fleets take. So it's high diversity if they take many species and low diversity if they concentrate on one. And also on socioeconomic vulnerability. And those 3 components together give you a score for risk. And what we noticed is that some of the fishing fleets in northern England and southern Scotland are actually amongst the most high risk in terms of climate change of any of those in Europe. And we recently had a paper on this topic that came out. We completed similar work to this elsewhere in the world. So we did some work in Oman, for example, and the seas of the sort of Arabian Gulf area. And it's important here because this is already the hottest sea area in the world. So for example, last year in Kuwait, the warmest seawater temperatures recorded anywhere on the planet were measured at about 36.7 degrees, which is absolutely unprecedented. And very few fish are known to be able to withstand temperatures of that level. Finally, an area of work that I've become particularly interested in recently is looking at climate change and storminess. About 2 years ago, we interviewed fishermen in the UK about their attitudes towards climate change, and most of them felt that they adapt to climate all the while. Adapting to the weather is kind of what they do, but what they are interested in and worried about is changes in storminess. And the projections for the future are Not necessarily that there are going to be more storms in the future, but the storms that we do see may be of higher magnitude. And so what we've been doing is we used the Beast from the East set of storms in 2014 to look at how the fishing industry was disrupted during that period. And we've been constructing models of thresholds to work out if a wind speed or a wave height goes above a certain level, when will the fishing fleets be significantly disrupted. And we've been applying this all over the world, and also we've been interviewing fishermen about their attitudes towards storminess and climate change.